Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to meet the news on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Aniete Patrick. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and on StarTimes channels 276. Now the news. The Academic Staff Union of Universities says it is expecting to hear from the Ministry of Education. The union's national president, Professor Chris Pinwuna, stated this in an interview in Abuja. In the meantime, the Nigerian Senate has restated its commitment to mediating the ongoing dispute between the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and the federal government. This was disclosed by the chairman of the Senate's Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund, Senator Muktari Dandusi, stressing the urgent need for students to return to school while negotiations continue. Here's Topsy Gimba with the details.
Senator Dandusi, who led the Senate delegation in the meeting with ASU representatives, said the engagement was aimed at finding a balanced resolution to the lingering impasse. He explained that the Senate has drawn up a mediation framework to address the crisis, which includes immediate negotiation between ASU and the Ministry of Education and NUC.
And on our resolution, the Senate is not happy that the agreement by the government to ASU has not been fulfilled.
Senator Dandusi added that the Senate is determined to ensure that government commitments are met and the academic activity resumed without further delay. He said the priority is the future of the Nigerian students and the stability of the nation's tertiary institution.
We want the leadership of ASU to write all the issues they raise in our discussion so that we can pass the Ministry of Education together with them by Tuesday or Wednesday to ensure that our children are back to school.
Also speaking, Senator Karim Sunday highlighted the progress made in ongoing negotiations. Senator Sunday stressed that the Senate would continue to push for improvements in staff welfare and educational funding.
They have agreed to increase the allowance to 35%, which they still felt they are not comfortable with, that it should go up a bit. And we spoke to them so that we can reach an agreement. Also, they talk about taxing.
In his remarks, Senator Adams Oshiomhole underscored the need for sincerity on all sides. He pointed out that issues affecting academic work, such as taxation on essential materials, could be resolved through good faith negotiations. Oshiomhole further warned that Nigeria must take deliberate steps to retain its brightest minds within the university system.
Before then, it would be nice if our children of the poor, I emphasize children of the poor, because the not so poor, their children are not here, so that they can be back to school.
Meanwhile, ASU President Professor Chris Pinwuna acknowledged that Senate's mediation efforts but maintained that the government's latest salary proposal remains outside the framework earlier agreed upon. Professor Pinwuna reiterated that any decision to suspend strike action rests with union members.
That document that was submitted in December 2024 is one that was unattended to until we embarked on this action.
Another meeting between the union and the government is scheduled for over the weekend, with hopes that amicable compromise will be paved the way for students to return to classroom. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has forecast sunny skies and hazy conditions across the country from Sunday to Tuesday. The agency noted that in northern Nigeria, including Yobe, Kano, hazy mornings are expected, while the rest of the region will experience mostly sunny conditions. The central region of the country is expected to have sunny mornings with patches of clouds, followed by isolated thunderstorms with moderate rainfall in Benue, Kogi, the Federal Capital Territory, and Nasarawa in the afternoons and evenings. A federal high court in Abuja has barred politician and online publisher Omoyele Sowore and others behind the planned protest for the release of Nnamdi Kanu of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, from taking their activities anywhere close to the presidential villa, Aso Rock, Abuja, and other important national institutions. Justice Mohammed Umar, in a ruling, also asked Sowore and his associates in the protest planned for October 20th to stay clear of National Assembly, Force Headquarters, Court of Appeal, Eagle Square, and Shehu Shagari Way, pending the hearing of the motion on notice filed by the police on behalf of the federal government. The National Parents Teachers Association of Nigeria, NAPTAN, has backed the federal government's decision to close schools charging tuition fees in foreign currencies. Chairman of the association's board of trustees, Adeolu Ogunbanjo, stated that such demands are unacceptable in any Nigerian institution. He further described the practice as exploitative, abnormal, and unpatriotic, noting that it must not be tolerated under any circumstances. Away from that, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has urged Nigerian leaders to uphold truth, transparency, and selflessness while empowering youth for present and future leadership. Obasanjo made the call in Abeokuta, Ogun State's capital, at the grand reunion and maiden lecture series of the Royal College of Defense Studies, United Kingdom Alumni Association, Nigerian chapter. He observed that present leaders once passed through these phases marked by fancy, energy, beauty, and fantasy. But now the youth face numerous challenges in a fractured world. The Nigerian military intelligence says terrorists in Nigeria's restive northeast have killed 7 troops, including an army commander. The soldiers were killed in an ambush in a village in Kunduga local government area, some 35 kilometers from Maiduguri, capital of Borno State. Nigeria is battling a long-running insurgency by militants from Boko Haram and rival breakaway group Islamic State, West Africa province, ISWAP. Nigeria has intensified efforts to reduce salt consumption and promote healthier eating habits as part of a broader push to combat the growing burden of non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, stroke, and heart disease. Speaking during a stakeholders' engagement on sodium reduction in front of park labeling in Abuja, the special advisor to the President on Health, Dr. Salma Anas, emphasized that cutting sodium intake and promoting clear food labeling are vital to improving national health and productivity. The meeting drew participants from the World Health Organization, Federal Ministry of Health, Network for Health Equity and Development, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Africa, and resolved to save lives and the private sector. Improper waste disposal in major markets and residential areas across Nigeria is raising serious concerns, with traders and residents calling for government intervention. Sadia Yakubu gives us more details on that.
The problem is not limited to markets alone. In many residential areas, especially in low-income communities, residents dump waste in drainage channels and open spaces. These practices blocks waterways and worsen the flood during the raining season, creating breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Despite repeated campaigns on proper waste disposal, compliance remains low.
It's actually hazardous because, of course, when people breathe foul air, it affects them indirectly, That's why as I pass by, I have to use my handkerchief to cover my nose because, of course, I don't want to be affected by it.
Proper waste management requires collective efforts. Governments must improve waste collection systems while citizens take responsibilities for their environment.
This is very bad. It's not good for our health. Even what you're hearing is not really good. Since in primary school they are teaching us hygiene, and we are growing up to see this. It's very, very discouraging.
Improper waste disposal is not just an environmental issue, but a health crisis Communities need consistent sensitization and better waste collection services to reduce health risk. Sadia Yakubu reporting for Global Television.
You're watching the live broadcast of Midday News. When Midday News returns, Afghanistan, Pakistan agreed to immediate ceasefire after talks in Doha. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. It's good to have you back on set. In business, President of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has called on Nigerians to embrace and patronize locally made products in order to strengthen the nation's economy and promote national development. He made this known when former presidential aide Reno Omokri visited him in Lagos. Yes, Ubong Usoro with the details.
President of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, says increased patronage of made-in-Nigerian products would create jobs and reduce the country's over-independence on imported goods. Dangote noted that Nigeria has the capacity to produce most of the goods currently being imported if local manufacturers are adequately supported. He explained that excessive importation weakens the naira and puts pressure on the economy, while local production drives industrial growth and economic resilience.
I want to encourage all Nigerians to buy only made in Nigeria. When you buy anything made in Nigeria, you are helping to create jobs. And the only way for us to be a stronger nation is to patronize ourselves and be buying made in Nigeria only, so that we can encourage great jobs and prosperity.
The industrialists also urge government at all levels to introduce policies that will encourage production, address power challenges, and support small and medium-scale enterprises. Dangote emphasized that for Nigeria to attain global competitiveness, citizens must embrace locally made products just like other countries by prioritizing homegrown production. Ubong Usoro for Global Television.
The Benue State Investment and Property Company, BIPC, has commenced juice production at its factory recently revitalized by the Executive Governor, Hyacinth Illia. The milestone was marked during a successful test run of the factory located at the industrial layout in Makurdi. Benue State correspondent Felicity Ndere tells us more.
For years, fruit waste, particularly oranges and mangoes, has been a major challenge in Benue State, resulting in significant economic losses for farmers due to the absence of preservation and processing facilities. For farmers, the establishment of these fruit processing plants by the earlier administration aims to add value to farm produce and drastically reduce post-harvest losses.
Before then, the bag of orange was 2,000 and 1,500. But with the coming of this company, we are sure that the orange will move from here to upward. And the farmers shall also get value for their products.
The lead technician revealed that the plant has the capacity to produce up to 4 tons of juice per hour, noting that the project would curb post-harvest losses and guarantee better returns for farmers.
And we are also going to make sure that post-harvest losses are brought to minimal, and every farmer within the state will get true value for their orchards.
After refinery processing, supposed to go to evaporator for concentration. So the capacity of the production is 4 tons per hour.
After tasting the first batch of juice, the group managing director of BIPC, Dr. Raymond Asimakaha, expressed delight and commended Governor Illia for reviving the long-abandoned factory and repositioning it for productivity.
This is a plant that we feel that with the capital injection that we're injecting in this place, we will ensure that our people have value. We will make sure that our fruits have value proposition. Farmers will begin to enjoy their money. People will begin to have work. We have been working morning and night to ensure that we show the world that it is possible that Benue is on the rising, and that is what you have today. This is the juice. And the oil, we are going to also use it and export it and have FS. The chaffs, we are also going to use it for our organic fertilizer. And just name them, there's no wastage here.
The revitalization of Benfruit is among several industrial revival projects initiated by the earlier administration to drive agro-industrial growth and strengthen Benue's economy. Felicity Ndere reporting for Global Television News.
Every year, about this time, farmers across the 44 local government areas of Kano State troop into Dakata market to trade in sweet potato. Global TV correspondent Idris Jibril reports that, like many other farm produce, this year the prices of sweet potatoes has reduced significantly.
This is called Dakata Food Market in Kano. From here, farm produce like sweet potatoes are distributed to other states including Niger Republic. For the last couple of years, the price of sweet potatoes have gone high, largely due to Nigeria's high cost of living. But this year, the price has fallen, owing to a current reduction in Nigeria's inflation rate.
Buy 1,000 naira is difficult for you. Now you can buy even 200 naira and go home with it. So there is a lot of reducing, a lot of payable to the customers, and even we are selling it.
According to traders, a 100 kg bag of sweet potatoes now costs 20,000 naira, as against 30,000 naira last year. Traders say availability of the product, coupled with low impression rates, are largely responsible for the price reduction this year.
Everything has changed because as before, this bag that you see, we are selling about 30,000 to 35,000 naira. Now it's turned into 21,000, 19,000, even 17,000 we are selling it.
Despite this development, traders say lack of capital among farmers, high cost of transportation and government increased taxation are gradually threatening this age-long lucrative business in Kano.
One of our problems is that we have excess supply of goods, and this makes the price to go down. That is the biggest challenge.
While Nigerians continue to witness significant reduction in prices of goods and services across the country, it is however hopeful that the situation will continue to remain unchanged for the overall growth and development of the states. From Kano, Idris Jibril, Global Television News.
And on the foreign scene, Afghanistan and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire in talks mediated by Qatar and Turkey, following a week of fierce and deadly clashes along their disrupted border. Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the two South Asian nations agreed to the ceasefire and the establishment of mechanisms to consolidate lasting peace and stability between the two countries. Doha said the two countries also agreed to hold follow-up meetings in the coming days to ensure the sustainability of the ceasefire and verify its implementation in a reliable and sustainable manner. After almost 10 days without taking to the streets, young Moroccans resumed their protests in front of the parliament in the capital, Rabat, led by online youth collective Gen Z 212. They are demanding government reform, education and healthcare while tackling corruption and a cost of living crisis. One protester, Reda, said the gathering was organized to unify their ranks and coordinate their demonstrations. Hamas has rejected a statement from the United States, State Department in which it cited credible reports indicating the Pakistani group would immediately violate the ceasefire deal with Israel. In a statement, Hamas said the U.S. allegations were false and fully aligned with the misleading Israeli propaganda and provide cover for the continuation of the occupation's crimes and organized aggression against the Palestinians in Gaza. The U.S. State Department had claimed that Hamas is planning an attack against civilians in Gaza in grave violation of the ceasefire and called on the mediating nations to demand that the group uphold its obligations under the US-backed peace deal. And in sports, Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has dismissed suggestions that the likes of Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee will leave Old Trafford in the January transfer window. Mainoo and Zirkzee had struggling for regular playing game time under Amorim so far this season. Mainoo has not started a game in the Premier League this season, while Zirkzee has made just 3 substitute appearances in the Premier League. Players refused to move for the first 15 seconds of matches in La Liga as protests at the Spanish League's decision to stage a game in Miami continued. The high-profile fixtures involving Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, who had home games against Girona and Osasuna, respectively, following the precedents set by Oviedo and Espanyol. There were identical protests at Sevilla and Mallorca and Villarreal and Real Betis. As had happened in the match between Oviedo and Espanyol, television cameras for Barcelona game cut away to show the exterior of the stadium, denying audiences a view of the protests. Lando Norris insisted the collision with Oscar Piastri that saw both McLarens retire from the sprint will not change his approach to the start of Sunday's United States Grand Prix, as he vowed to go for the win on what could prove a crucial day in F1's title race. At the end of the tumultuous four-lap round, after their title contending drivers collided for the second successive weekend. This time, to race-ending effect at the first corner of the sprint, Norris bounced back to a greater degree than Piastri in the last qualifying session for the Grand Prix to take second on the grid behind Max Verstappen. Championship leader Piastri struggled to 6th place, a starting position which opens the door for both Verstappen and Norris to take more points out of the Australians' dwindling title lead in Sunday's 56-lap race. And that's it on Global TV Midday News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all our social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. I am Aniti Patrick. Thank you for being a part of the news.